Ladies and gentlemen, this is Friday Night Live. I am your host, Kesh. We got Marconi tonight. Welcome. Woo! We are very, very excited. Another episode on Friday that we're bringing to you. Mark, thank you for joining us. Now, normally we have Sean with us and sometimes a guest.
He's here.
He is here. He is, right? Guys, this one's a quick and sharp one. If you haven't watched last week's episode, please do, because we were drunk. It was Friday drinks, and then, we're committed to our audience of how many ever people now? Thousands. Let's put it out there. And we did a pretty good episode. It was a mindset piece. We had Jennifer, our guest, that was on with us, which was pretty nice. And if I slur my words in that one, I apologize. There's a lot of quacks, but watch that one. That was fun. But tonight, I've got Mark, myself. We're going to keep it short and sharp. We're not going to get into whose week was how, because you know what? No one really cares. Let's just get into the fatter things. Guys, tonight's episode is about wealth. And when I say wealth, yes, all of our podcast is built around wealth and real estate and so on and so forth. But this is about understanding consciously what your wealth plan is. Mark, I see people, you see people every single day, and I have been one of these people. And when you ask someone, what is your family's wealth plan? People often stammer, in my experience, and tell you, what do you mean? Or I'm saving, or I have a property, I've summoned shares, but there is no substantial plan. And the biggest problem is that you and I both know, if you've got no goal, you've got no plan that is broken down into actionable items, we're not getting anywhere. So Mark, right straight to you, the question is, you sit and have a lot of conversations with people, right? And we call him empathetic Mark, because Mark's heart does go out. He's got a beautiful son, beautiful missus, and he's all about the family, right? But you have a lot of conversations with people, especially that 35 to 45 sort of demographic of person, right? And closer to 45, they're more panicky. They realize it hasn't worked. Yeah. Mate, what I want to ask you is, in your experience, what wealth plans do you come across, and how often are people really aware about their money?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's surprisingly shocking, I think, is the right word to say, to see how many people that are, let's say in a career that they've been in for a while now, they're pretty set, they've got a family, whether they're migrated to Australia or not, they're well established in some way, shape or form. And I think it is one of the first questions that I'll always pose in every meeting of a new person I always have, is exactly what you said before. What is your wealth plan? Well, what is your your long-term solution, number one? And then when they come back, and maybe they have an answer, maybe they don't. Let's assume that they don't have an answer in this instance. I will then ask them, well, what's your alternative solution? And that poses a very, very long pause where they're kind of looking, whether it's a husband and wife, let's say, they're looking at each other, and they, it's interesting, because you think to yourself, we're not here forever. We know that. And we know that, life is not most likely, at least chances are 99% of the time there, that we're not going to die tomorrow, right?
Yep.
Unless for any unforeseen circumstances. But again, we know that these unforeseen circumstances, again, we don't have control over that, right? So we put that out of the picture for the time being. But something I've always been big on is planning ahead. Maybe it's been a fault of mine at times as well, where you think too far ahead, and I get it, you got to live in the moment. But the problem is that when we live in a great country like we're in here in Australia, because I have not lived all around the world, so I can't comment, but I am pretty confident in saying that we live in one of the best countries.
I would say so.
Especially seeing what's going on in the world at the moment, right? And I think it's quite easy to say that because we live in such an easy going type of country that does support its people. I know it's a pain in the ass sometimes with the government. They can be stiff in some areas.
There is some system in place.
Absolutely.
We're very, very blessed.
Very blessed.
Yep.
And I think you would agree with me as well in saying that we become somewhat lazy in a a financial sense, right? We get well-paid jobs here. You know, we do complain about wage growth, but hang on, let's have a look at the industry you're in, right? Certain industries are not complaining about wage growth whatsoever.
No, they're not. They're not.
So people get paid well here, you know, a lot better than what they were getting paid maybe at home, or better than what they were getting paid in previous industries or whatever.
Yep.
And there's a lot of benefits that we get, right? And we think, you know, the government's going to look after us. No, they're not. No, they're not.
They can't.
They can't.
They can't. They you know, for me, what is a big red flag, if you will, is people not realizing it. So sometimes when I ask people, I go, you're worried about what uni you're going to, what skill set or TAFE or whatever it is. You're worried about your job and your promotion. You're worried about buying a house, right? All of those things are a means to an end. That's all it is.
Yep.
Right? And what I find super scary, and I find it very surprising that well-educated people they go, my entire plan right now is to, even your own mortgage, right, is I'm going to have a job or a business, and that business is going to pay me, and I'm going to pay substantial tax, and then from whatever money I'm left, I'm going to park it everywhere else. But they don't realize they're the hamster that is running on that wheel, that is putting electricity, if you will, into these other things, your cars, your kids, your house, whatever it might be, right? Then comes inflation or economic uncertainty. And for a lot of people, it falls apart. A lot of people, it falls apart. And I it's beyond me that people don't understand that they need to have a wealth plan. So, saying that, I actually have a way to look at life and look at a wealth plan. And for me, the number one thing is, and jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, if you've got something to add to this, is how do I multiply my money? First rule is make money.
Yep.
You need to have some source of income. Job, business, 10 side hustles, doesn't matter what it is. You need to make money to make money. You don't need a lot of money to make money, but you need some money, right? You can't be bum broke sitting at your home hoping that magically life's going to change. It's not going to happen. You got to do the hard yards. You got to put in the reps. Once you've made the money, before you go buy the big house, before you go buy, because what happens is with people is as their income increases, they try and do things society wants us to do. Get the home, we need a 7-seater, or we need this, or, you know, we need to go for our annual holiday, or whatever it might be. And I'm not saying that people got to live like misers. I do not believe like the barefoot investor, they got to skip out on avocado toast or have buckets or whatever it is, right? It's just very practically, first you got to make money and take that money and put it somewhere else and put it in a place that'll multiply.
Yep. And
is inflation proof.
Yep.
And what is inflation? Cost of living, cost of goods and services, and $10 beers or whatever it might be, right? These beers, I'm pretty sure when I was at uni were $3.50, then they got to $5 and now they're 10, right? Inflation.
Yep.
For me, that gap, that's the missing bit that people don't think about, because there's so much noise out there. There's so much noise out there that people don't know where to get started from, right? Now, Mark, this is a question for you. We talk a lot about leverage and using leverage. And you originally come from a commercial finance background. And we've talked about this, the monopoly board. And we live in a capitalist economy. That means money is borrowed, money is invested. So you could get large scale returns. So if I've got $10, I borrow another 100, I've got $110. So then I can make $200. Return the 100, my $10 became $100. Yep. Can you explain to people the power of leverage and how that can be such a big multiplier, especially in a country like Australia?
Absolutely.
Even from a commercial sense, when you forget the home loan, mate, you've seen people borrow like substantial amount of money.
Yeah, correct. And you know what? I say it to my clients as well. When you come on board, we look at everything from a commercial sense. We're not looking at it from the mum and dad investor. Oh, this is a nice area. That's great. Anyone can look at that online. But let's look at it from a commercial perspective on how we can get ourselves from point A to point B, and not necessarily in the fastest time, but more so in the safest time, right? Without having to put another dollar in, right? So in the commercial space, we came across people from time to time where they were very used to using their own cash, right? And don't get me wrong, they had a lot of cash, but what they would do is they would use cash, make a profit on that cash and do it again, right? That's what we call, obviously, a businessman. He gets $1, turns it into 2. But an entrepreneur gets $1 and turns it into 10, right? And I think leverage can be seen as a form of entrepreneurialism, right? If that's the right word. But but you got to look at it as though, an entrepreneur is not looking to double their money. They're looking to 10x their money, right? And that's leverage.
You got to.
You have to.
There's no other way to do it. Now, guys, I'm going to share an example, right? So I'm going to screen record here. Producer Ryan, if you could just have this up wherever on my face, if you will. And Mark, you know this. I'm often a big fan of people really understanding how to really...
Recording in progress.
Damn, did you hear that? Recording in progress. So this is how I look at life, right? For me to have financial freedom, and when I talk about financial freedom, for me personally, for everyone, it could be different. It's not chilling on a beach. I will work till I die. I love what I do.
Yeah.
I absolutely do. I am crazy. All of us are, right? That's when on Friday, producer Ryan is hanging out with us.
Smacking schmitties.
Yeah, that's it, right? But I go, right, what are the 3 main things that are stopping me from living my best life? The first thing is fixed cost. People often chase, how do I pay off my mortgage? Which I personally believe, and this is my belief, and if you have a calculator, it'll be your belief very soon, that paying down in this market at 2, 3, 4% debt might not be the smartest thing when you can use the same money to maybe make 10, 12, 15%, arbitraging. I took $100 from Mark. I got to give him, $3 a year for that $100. And I put that $100 in a place where it becomes 110 and 120 and 130, right?
Yep.
Till the point Mark doesn't want his money back. I keep playing the game. Anyway, end up on top, right? So the first thing are fixed costs. Now, what I include in my fixed costs, and you're big on budgets and you track a lot of things, for me, it's very simple. Roof above my head, 3 meals a day, basic bills, water, internet, electricity, whatever it is. For some people, it might be rent. For some people, it might be mortgage, right? And I annualize that. How much is it going to be on an annual basis? And I adjust it for tax. In my findings, I find that if you live in a place like Sydney and you've recently bought a property and you've got a mortgage of anywhere between circa $650 to $850, and you've got a family of 3 or 4, you're looking at $100,000 gross just to keep your head above water.
Yep.
Right? That is according to me. Now, if you're someone who eats half a meal a day and, you shop at Lowe's, different story. Maybe. I don't know. But that is basic fixed cost, right? Now, $100,000. The next thing I look at is, what are my lifestyle costs?
Yep.
So again, in lifestyle costs, I'm not putting in the Lambo or the 10 international holidays, but maybe a domestic trip. Anniversaries, birthdays, if you've got children, iPad, school, tutoring, sport, rego, car repayments. Again, when I'm talking about cars, we're not talking about Bentleys and Rolls Royces, a car that'll get you from point A to point B that won't break down, right? Something that'll keep your family safe, right? Again, I'm not talking about driving a piece of shit car, but basic, right? Anything between, for me, a basic car is anywhere between $35,000 to $65,000 range, I would assume. Is that what cars are selling for now? So that would be another 50, 60K a year gross, because then tax has to be adjusted in that. So then that's your lifestyle costs, right?
Yep.
And the last thing is luxuries. What are your hopes and dreams? Like, you want to give inheritance to your family. You want to give to charity. You want to buy that dream car, or you want to live in that dream family home with the infinity edge pool, the outdoor barbecue, where you can entertain all your friends and you have the best Christmas and New Year's or whatever it might be, right? Instead of looking at these things as this is $10 million and that's $4 million and this is $3 million, I work out how much money do I need on a weekly, monthly, fortnightly basis to achieve these things, right? Then the second thing I look at as an investor is as an individual. for a wealth plan is, what can I do in my circle of competence, what I understand, to create this passively?
Yep.
And what I believe is this: if you do not have at least your fixed cost covered through passive and alternative incomes, you are really, really in trouble.
Agreed.
Makes sense?
Yep. Absolutely.
Because it is very impractical there'll be a very small percentage who will just go and buy their dream 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, $3 million, whatever it is, house cash. It's not going to happen. There are very few people who will drop $600,000 on their dream car cash. It's not going to happen. Most likely, you'll be able to pay a fraction of the price, and then it will be repayments and leverage. Absolutely use it, right? What people need to understand is, how do I create this passively? One. The second part of the wealth plan is your part that you were talking about, leverage and the power of leverage. Make sense? So how can I take $75,000 of my own, borrow another $450,000 from the bank, and 2x that, 3x that, 5x that? And the third part is, as I'm earning money and the harder I'm working, the more money I'm making, how can I make investments that will help me mitigate, or at least help me tax plan better, bring back a little bit more of that tax?
Yep.
Would you agree?
I think that's a very, very good way to look at things, yeah.
But in this entire process, do you not think that people end up overthinking? Like, let's talk about property for a second.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
How many times, like you and I have made purchases, it's the numbers, not the property. The property is not going to change the way it behaves.
Correct.
If you've made a purchase, Marc's on the title, I'm going to become $4 million tomorrow morning. Thank you, Marc, for signing the title. Oh my God, Marc is bought in this suburb. It should change. It doesn't happen. So let me ask you this. You in your life have bought properties, good, bad, and ugly. You've bought and sold businesses, good, bad, and ugly. What do you do when you have a wealth plan and it doesn't go as you want it to go?
I'll tell you when it doesn't go to plan the way you want it to, is when you don't track it.
I was hoping you'd say that.
Yeah. And that is something that I've been big on over the last few years, is tracking, obviously, every financial year at a time, but keeping what you did last year as a benchmark to outdo that again. Now, you might not be in a sales position, for an example, where you can't just all of a sudden increase your income and so on, but you can most certainly look at other ways to increase it outside of your job.
Can I just jump in there for a second before the audience gets sick of my voice? I disagree with you there a little bit, because I sat with a very, very nice Vietnamese gentleman the other day, and he came from the hospitality background. And in 6 months over COVID, he's married. He's got a kid, mate. Like, he's not some 12-year-old living in his parents' basement. In Australia, we don't really have basements, and if you do, call the cops. But it's this guy has gone from basically hospitality, no uni degree, to being a data scientist, or data scientist, however people say it, in 6 months. And he's gone from, shit, I don't know how I'm going to feed my family, to making very, very good money, right? I believe people have the power to change that.
Correct.
What I think is, where you're going is, I don't think people are aware that they can.
They're not. They limit themselves. They
Why?
limit
Why?
themselves. I don't know. And you know what? I have this conversation with people all the time. A lot of our clients. I like to bring them back down to earth and say, were you really put on this earth to get a good job, pay a mortgage? Were you? Because if you are, great. You're achieving your dreams. But I know that you got a lot more in you. I know that when you were a kid running around, let's say you were from overseas, and when you were playing with your friends in the street, you were not thinking about being the best software engineer, as an example. You were probably thinking about being the next Steve Jobs, right?
100%.
Why can't you be that
Steve
person?
didn't even code. Love him.
But look, I think, again, tracking is a huge thing in the investment world of progress. I think, just put the money aside. Progress on anything. You've got to track yourself. You've got to look at how you performed 3 months ago, 6 months ago, 12 months ago, and 10 years ago. All right. And, if you are outdoing yourself each and every time, and let's look at it from a dollar perspective for now. If you are saving a little bit more money, you might have said, you know what, I'm not going to go buy that beer, right? And I'm going to instead go for a walk, and I'm not going to spend that money tonight. Friday night, I'm not going to go out. That's a win.
That's a win.
A win from last week.
But what we want from a wealth plan perspective, and that's a beautiful start.
Yeah.
Is you don't go out on a Friday night. You've saved that $300 that you would have spent on God knows what. We're not going to say this on this channel because producer Ryan's like, quack you. I'm not going to edit this out again.
Yeah.
But my and your argument is save that $300. Great. Step one. First earn the 300, save the 300, and then you got to park the 300.
Correct.
Right? You got to park the 300. And the way to make that 300, very simple math. Okay? Very, very simple math. I'm going to pull up my phone here. And let's do this. Let's take $1,000 and let's do an example together, right? So I'm going to go on to money. Is it Smart Money or Money Smart? What is it?
Smart Money.
Smart Money. smartmoney.com.au. Is that what it is? I think so. I hope so.
Yeah.
Nah, we went to some shady website. Smart Money. Guys, be with me here.
Maybe
it was Money Smart. Oh, he's going to kill us. Can you censor that out? Money Smart. moneysmart.gov.au.
Yes.
It is a government website. And let's talk. They have a very, very nice compounding calculator. And if you don't understand what compound interest is, no wonder you're broke. Compound interest is the only thing you need to know in life when it comes to creating money. So let's play this game, right? So if I put $1,000 in the bank today, and I make no other deposits, and I leave it in there for, say, 10 years, the banks are giving us, 0.35% on our savings, or thereabouts. So in 10 years, your $1,000 at your favorite bank account, I'm sure there'll be some guy there saying, no, there's a special bank that is giving seniors 1%. Oh, don't care. Is going to be, you would have made $36.
Yep.
So your $1,000 in 10 years in the bank would have become $1,036. Now let's just say we put it into the stock market, right? And let's just say you average 6%?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a fair number? Some guy will be like, no, if I show you historical data, the stock market has been performing at 11%. Don't care. Okay. Let's just say an average of 6%, right? So your $1,000 in the stock market or in a Vanguard fund, if you will, sponsor us, would be $1,800. So good.
Yep.
Right. Now, if you leave it there for 20 years, the same $1,000 in the Vanguard account or a 6% growth pattern, it will be worth $3,000. Okay. But this is how real estate works. We take that $1,000 and we go to the Mr. Lender and say, listen, mate, I've got $1,000. How about you give me another $9,000? Okay. So then I take $10,000, buy a property. Then let's just say the average growth, and I know this for a fact because this is what I do for a living, has been 6.85% across capital cities in the last 25 years or so, right?
Yep.
Let's just say it's 5%. Let's take below the average, right? $10,000, 5%. That is worth $27,000. Okay. Now, let's take the $27,000 that it's worth. Subtract the $10,000 that I paid to the bank.
Yep.
I've turned my 1,000 into 17.
Yep. The power of compound interest.
So, again, $1,000 with leverage. Now, there's a rule to this, and this comes down to property selection. And you and I know this rule really well. The rule to this is, especially for most people, right? For most average income people, the mortgage should be paid by the tenant or the ATO and not you.
Yes, agreed.
Again, I've not factored in, this is just compound growth. I've not factored in the annual rents. I've not factored in the tax benefits. I've not factored in any of that sort of stuff. Reason being, there'll be someone here who'll be like, but you didn't take into council rates. Doesn't matter, mate. We can argue till the cows come home. This is the best. The second thing, if you look at Australia today, and you know this, $9 trillion plus is residential real estate. $2 trillion is ASX. $2 trillion is your super fund pension fund of Australia, if you're not from here. And about $1 trillion is commercial. So if you look at where people have chosen to put their money, has been in residential real estate. Now, mate, you've worked with private lenders, you've worked with banks, you've worked with all this sort of stuff. Do you really think the big bad banks want us to for their money to disappear?
Yeah.
And do you really think, Mark, how often do people cut their legs off? Say, previous to this boom, we're trying to perfect where they buy and how it's going to work, and is the aspect right? Is it northeast fit? Are these things important? Of course they are. I'm not discounting them. But you and I always say this, isn't to have a wealth plan is to do something consistently and not once.
Agreed. And you know what? You've made me just think about something that happened just this week alone.
Yeah.
A potential client that would have come on board, but he's just sitting tight for the moment. He
let him sit tight.
Yeah, he
name
can
drop
sit
him.
tight. No, I won't name drop him, but he can sit tight. And I want him to sit tight for a lot longer. This gentleman sent me an email late last night and just saying, "Oh, look, you know what? We're just going to hold fire for 5 minutes. We're not going to jump in just yet because of the market volatility." And I thought, great. Well, you know,
market volatility. Was he pumping in $1 billion?
Well, yeah. Look. It made me laugh, to be fair, because I thought, all right, you've probably seen some articles in recent times about what's going on in Russia, Ukraine, things like that. Okay, I get it. You know, the share market tanked, but it also came back today as well. You know, these things are going to happen. Now, we always knew it. We saw a recession-proof asset in front of our eyes within the last 2 years.
Stood the test of time.
Which was real estate.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We bounced back harder than ever, bounced back better than it ever has, and experts...
To real estate! We love you!
And experts that had been in the game 20, 30 years longer than you and I had said they had never seen this type of bounce back ever before, right? And not just one person, many people, right? Many old farts that are in this space have said, we've never seen this amount of demand for real estate, because we've also never been in a position where the country was locked down. We had no one coming in and no one going out.
Mate,
right?
Speaking of going out, we are going to be going out for a quick subscription break. We're going to be back in 1 second. Guys, this is your chance to subscribe. Coming back to you in 2 seconds. Subscribe now. We are back from the subscription break! Guys, welcome back to this episode of Friday Night Live. That was by mistake. It's not supposed to be funny. But welcome back. Hope you guys subscribe. If we haven't met before and this is the first time you're watching, I'm joking. You better be watching it. Coming back to Mark, you were saying, this guy's sitting tight. There is uncertainty in the market. What's going on?
Well, I mean, look, I had to think about it, and I thought, okay, let's weigh up all the factors. And I get it. You know what? You might not be into investing all of your cash into something and seeing it take a dip after, let's say, the first 6 months, because that's a reality. You can buy something for $1 million, you can buy something for $1, and you can see it be worth half of what you bought it for.
That's right.
Within, a matter of days, months, depending on what it is, of course, as an asset. Now, these are risks, but I also thought, okay, well, that's good. Stay liquid. That's fine. Keep your cash in the bank. There is nothing wrong with any decision that you make. And I'm not here to say that,
I'm going to say that you leave, even if you bought the worst piece of real estate over 10 years, will outperform cash.
Well, look, I'll be empathetic, Mark, and say, hey, you know what? Leave your money there. Do what's right for you. And that's all that matters. and look, that reality is that's right. That's the right type of music for that type of decision, because it's a shit decision. Right? Simple as that. It does not matter. I don't care about taking your business. I don't care about where you go with your business. Do something with your money, though. Do not just think, oh, there's market volatility. Yes, and you know what? 2 years ago, we dealt with COVID, and look how we bounced back. And let's look back in 2010. And you know what? We've said these same things on these podcasts time and time again. And you know what? The same types of people end up coming back and saying, hey, you know what? You made a good point, actually, on that podcast, because I did listen to it. Because we promote this podcast to people that don't necessarily join us and become our clients. We promote it to many different people. But, you know, they said, yeah, you made a good point. It made me really think about what am I going to hold on to the cash for? Let me deploy it now, because I know that in 6 months, 12 months, 24 months time, I'm going to be buying at a more premium price. All right. This is not just because people are greedy. This is because that is how the world works. If we were buying properties in 1960 for the same price as today, no one would be buying real estate for the price that they are today.
In 2018, I can tell you this. In 2018, a single-level home in a suburb like North Kellyville on a 450-meter square block with a 4-bed, 3-bath, 2-car, premium built, nice, spec'd out. North Kellyville is 35, 40 Ks from the city, so no train station, none, right? $900,000 seemed a bit steep. From now, it's valued at about $1.8, $1.9 million. So it's very, like, look, again, I'm not saying that it should double or what's your alternative? What are you comparing it to?
Even put it into the share market. Do whatever you want to do with the cash.
You got to park your money somewhere.
That was my concern, as I was saying, dude, you're sitting there and you're waiting for this smooth sailing position. Now, that's the problem. When things are smooth sailing, they're usually moving up. All right, that's the reality. Nothing just plateaus and stays plateaued, because as soon as that, and I think in today's day and age, we can all agree here, we have access to so much technology. We know what's going on by the minute, every minute, and you don't need to be a professional stock trader to trade stocks. You can go on ComSec and trade straight away.
Even with that, so many times I've told people, they're like, oh, it's share. I'm like, dude, if you dollar average, put $1,000 a month in a Vanguard low cost, whatever fund for the next 20 years, you'll be better off than 99% people.
Oh, absolutely.
But they want to overcomplicate it.
Look, if you're not holding on to cash if you're holding on to cash and it's a standard bank account, I see that as you're losing. See, it's as simple as that. You might have 500,000, you might have $1 million, you might have $10 million just sitting in the bank. But the reality is, those that have that type of money in the bank don't have that money in the bank, because that money is in assets.
Right. Even when they talk about markets tanking and all of this sort of stuff, right? To take advantage of something that is undervalued, you need capital. And if you've never deployed capital to make capital, how are you going to deploy it when it goes down? So people think, oh, my house is going to be here and my equity today is $600,000. And when the market drops, I'm just going to go, mate, this is macroeconomics. If Sydney goes up, all of Sydney goes up. Yes, I agree. There's some better suburbs than others, some better property choices than others. I completely agree with that. I'm not disagreeing with it. But at any given point with investments, with your wealth plan, you got to dollar average it. I even tell my clients, you're not going to take $10 million. I would not put $10 million just into one thing.
Yes. And again, on that note, and I want to keep it back on, wealth planning and looking for your future and looking out for your future, I should say. But more importantly, dealing in that commercial space, right? I had dealt with many, many different high net wealth families, family offices, right? A family office. If you're not familiar with a family office, do some research and you'll understand.
Family office is basically granddaddy and daddy made a lot of money and the kids just manage it.
Correct. And the way that they manage it is by deploying it. This is the funny thing. It's those that are in the positions where they've made a little bit of money, right, in this big wide world, and they hold on to it, right? And it's not forget holding and deploying or anything, but that's just a mindset shift. If you start realizing the money is better out of the account, the reason being because it, number one, makes you work harder to say, I need to be more diligent on my investments. I need to be more proactive, right, in that regard. And again, I'm not saying just chuck it out and piss it up against the wall. I'm talking about putting it into something that is a guaranteed return for you, right? That is a calculated risk. Everything needs to be calculated. And I think we need to put a disclaimer today that none of this is financial advice. This is all purely just opinion.
No, this is not financial advice. This is a kick up your ass. This is a get off the fence. This is a serve your family. This is a think about it.
Correct. But again, going back to that family office commercial space, that is completely different to just buying a house, and renting it out, because that is mum and dad investing, and this is a different ball game. And again, you can apply the same principles from a commercial perspective, which we always talk about, into the mum and dad space. And those that apply those principles end up being a lot more successful. And it's not successful as though their properties are growing 10 times more all of a sudden. It's successful in the way that they're not stressed on little things, and they focus on the bigger picture. And they go, right, I know that this property is going to grow. Great, done. It's purchased. Mate, let it sit. I don't need to think about it.
We have a client, and I'm not going to name drop, who's had very average income and is in their early 40s, and they just made dollar average purchases.
Yep.
And they basically own 4 properties debt-free, including their own home, and have 2 million cash, all from real estate. And they've done it in a span of 20 years. Yep. Less than 20, 18 years on a very, very average income with 4 purchases over 20 years.
Yep.
Versus people who've been sitting around umming and ahhing. Oh, the economy, the ups, the downs. I can't keep going on for. What is your alternative? I rather get, even at the market, mate, and judging success of an investment, especially residential real estate or any sort of real estate, is not just capital growth, right? How much tax were you getting back? Imagine taking that extra $10,000, $12,000 in tax, putting it back into your mortgage and addressing that non-tax effective debt.
And to add to the tax chat at the moment, a lot of, and I always give a little disclaimer saying we don't just invest in real estate for tax benefits, but when
that's the cherry on top.
Yeah, correct. But again, let's take a step back and let's look at everything from a commercial perspective. When it comes to running on an ABN, an ACN, and being a larger corporation organisation, whether it be in Australia or around the world, what is the one thing that their accountant is the most focused on the whole time? How to reduce their taxes.
That's right.
Correct. All right. Because they know that the tax bills will be significant, enormous.
That's
right?
a punishment for doing really good in the economy.
And the idea is that the accountant will tell you, don't profit. Stay at obviously profit, but don't be running at a loss, ideally, because at the end of the day, you don't want to be paying the tax on the profit.
Right. But that's what the rich do, right? So let me tell you this. Sometimes I had a very interesting conversation the other day and with a finance guy, and this is the difference between mom and dad finance people and people who really understand money. So he was asking me why this guy took $1 million of gold and gave it to the bank and basically drew $1 million credit, because the bank will treat gold like cash, essentially. But it wasn't $1 million in credit, but it was like, say, $700,000 in drop. But he deposited $1 million in gold, certs, right? Yeah. And he was like,
so was he getting 75 cents to the dollar?
He only wanted $700,000 as a line of credit. And this guy was like, but why? Why wouldn't you just sell the gold and get the cash and buy whatever? 2 reasons. 1, on that line of credit, this guy might be paying 4, 5, 6, 7%, whatever it was, right? That $700,000 that he's drawn against the gold is not profit. It's a loan. He's taken that $700,000, bought a Lambo, bought business, I don't know, whatever he's done.
Yep.
For him, he knows that even if he's paying 7% on the $700,000, the cost of that money is $49,000 a year.
Yep.
So over 10 years, that's about $490,000. He knows in 10 years, his gold, even at 3% per annum, would beat that. And he's capitalized the interest. And this is what the rich do. If he had sold that gold and he bought that gold for, say, I don't know, $100,000 and now it's $1 million.
Yep.
He would have paid a shit ton in capital gains tax. He would have killed the golden hen, pun intended, right? And he would have been like, and that's, so they go, when people go, oh, loans are bad. Oh, no. The bank is taking your savings and going to another bank and going, hey, I've got $1 million in savings. Lend me $10 million. And that bank that gives them $10 million say, hey, I gave CBA $10 million. Give me $100 million. And it's the same $100 going around and around. And in this place, in this economy, we've talked about this in previous episodes. Guys, I cannot stress this enough. You got to play Monopoly.
Yeah.
You got to. And, if you want to understand how people go broke. Play Monopoly with your friends. Listen to me. Play Monopoly with your friends. And if you don't believe in investing or you don't really understand everything we're saying, and it's all I want you to do is this. Keep going around Go and keep trying to save from that money. Just don't buy any property. Don't buy any property. Don't build anything. Just keep going around Go, collecting $200 or whatever version of Monopoly you've got. And I'll see how long you last. And guys, that is what non-wealth planning looks like. That is the easiest, simplest example I can give you. Don't have to take my word for it. Sit down with your friends, roll the dice. I don't care how lucky or unlucky you are. Let us know in the comments how many rounds you last. Mark, now, before we wrap up, I'm going to do Sean's Rapid Robins. Right? Mm-hmm. What are the two most important things that you have learned and implemented that have changed the trajectory of your finances?
That's a good question. I think becoming a father changed a lot, to be fair. Puts a lot of things in perspective. It also gives you a refreshed or refined set of goals and targets you need to achieve.
That's some serious motivation.
Yeah, and they're non-negotiable either. All right, so I think that's one thing. And like I mentioned before, tracking. You know, look, it's not as though you need to look. I'm pretty tight with it, and I'll go down to the dollar, not to the cent, but to the dollar. But I do that because I'm capable of doing that. Now, it is better to do it that way. And
moneysmart.com, free budgeting tool.
Absolutely. But honestly, tracking, it's so much more than just cash, right? It's progress, because wealth comes with, your progress in life, right? Your personal development. If you're not thinking the right way, if you're not doing the right routines, right habits, if you're not thinking that you're earning $1 million. I know it sounds airy-fairy and everyone probably hears it all the time. They go, this is bullshit. But no, it's the reality is like you need
to want to say to those guys.
Yeah, exactly. But you need to be thinking on the next level. And that's what I do to myself. I think on the next level and know that, and Sean's actually said this to me a couple of years ago. Everything takes time to render, right? So what we think and we put out to the world, it's not going to happen overnight. We know that. No. But it will render the same way a PlayStation game renders, right? It loads up, gets ready, then it plays, right? It's the exact same thing in life. And those, as I said, like looking back on the past to compare yourself to yourself in the past, and then also having
extension to your family.
Extension to your family. But
mate, that's beautiful. That is so true. Two things I've learned. One, you got to start no matter what. That's the only way you'll get to the end.
True.
So I can drive from here to Brisbane. I can put it on Google Maps and I can put anything I want. All the apps, all the weather report. But physically, I can only see 2 kilometers at a time. So I got to sit in my car and start there and stop whinging about how far Brizzy is. Just get in and start driving if that's what I want to do. Second, having a realization that no one's going to save you. You're solely responsible for your successes, and every financial decision you make is going to affect your parents, your kids, yourself. So it's a place of responsibility. These are the two big things. Now, before we wrap up this Friday Night Live episode, and I don't want to take credit for this, I heard something beautiful today, and I want to leave you with this. If you knew you could never fail, what would you do every single day? Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Friday Night Live. My name is Kesh. I've had Mark, producer Ryan. Thank you very much for watching. We will see you next time. For now, love you. Look after yourself. Subscribe. Leave us a comment or don't. Doesn't really matter as long as you got some value. Bye for now.